No one expected a fragile lamb, left with no mother, to find his soulmate, not in another sheep, but in a giant dog who chose to love him back. When Lacey's phone rang that afternoon, she didn't know her life was about to change. On the other end of the line was her sister-in-law, voice filled with worry. She had found a newborn lamb, rejected by its mother. He was tiny, weak, barely able to stand. No one knew how to save him. Lacey didn't have experience raising sheep, but she had something just as important, a heart wide open. Without hesitation, she drove over, scooped up the fragile bundle, and carried him home. She wrapped him in a towel, held him close, and whispered comfort into his trembling ears. She gave him a name, Richard. The first days were hard. Every few hours, she warmed a bottle, guiding the tiny mouth to the rubber nipple. Sometimes he drank eagerly. Other times he was too weak, but Lacey never gave up. Slowly, he began to grow stronger. His legs steadied, his eyes brightened, his voice, once faint, grew louder. But more than milk, Richard was feeding on something else. Love. He learned the sound of Lacey's voice. He trusted the touch of her hands. He breathed in her scent and followed it like a compass. He wasn't just a lamb. He was a soul searching for connection. Still, Lacey knew one thing. Sheep need more than people. They need each other. So she brought home 2 more lambs, hoping they would be his flock. She imagined them playing together, curling up in the straw side by side. But Richard wasn't interested. He stayed polite but distant. He didn't play, he didn't follow. He didn't even seem to recognize them as his own kind. It was as if he was waiting for something else, someone else. That someone arrived in the shape of a giant. Chumley was a Kangal, a massive livestock guardian dog. Calm, steady, powerful. He had been brought to protect the animals, not to be their friend. He patrolled the property with quiet confidence, scanning the hills for danger. But when Richard saw him, something changed. From the very first day, the little lamb began to follow, across the pasture, through tall grass, into the misty morning. Wherever Chumley walked, Richard trotted behind, his tiny hooves clicking against the earth. At first, Lacey thought it was a passing curiosity, a phase, but it wasn't. It was the beginning of something deeper. Chumley did not chase him away. He didn't mind the shadow with wool on his back. Step by step, walk by walk, an unlikely bond began to bloom. One afternoon, Chumley was stretched out in the sun, resting. A curious hen wandered too close, pecking and flapping near his face. Before Lacey could move, Richard charged forward, his head lowered. His eyes locked, he chased the chicken away, fierce and determined. Lacey stood stunned. This wasn't play, this was protection. Richard wasn't guarding himself, he was guarding Chumley. For the first time, she saw him not as a lamb, not as a pet, but as a partner. From that day on, they were inseparable. Every morning, Lacey would step outside to find them already awake, walking side by side. Chumley, alert and steady. Richard, close behind, trusting completely. Every evening, she would find them curled up together. Chumley stretched across the straw. Richard pressed against his chest like a living pillow. Sometimes Richard climbed right on top of him. And Chumley, calm as ever, let him. It wasn't just affection, it was devotion. a trust so complete it felt holy. What amazed Lacey most was that Chumley had never done this before. He had watched over many animals, goats, chickens, other sheep, but Richard was different. He was the only one allowed to climb on his back. The only one Chumley napped with, the only one he chose. One day, their other guardian dog, Chloe, of playful Great Pyrenees, bounced too rough around Richard. She meant no harm, but before anyone could react, Chumley stepped between them, his body still, his eyes sharp. He didn't growl, he didn't snap. One look was enough. Chloe backed away. Because Richard wasn't just another animal, he was Chumley's. The seasons turned, days grew into months, and their bond only deepened. At sunrise, they walked the fields together, Chumley scanning the horizon for coyotes or mountain lions, Richard following with total faith. They shared the dust of summer, the winds of autumn, the frost of winter, always together. And little by little, Richard changed. He didn't act like other sheep. He didn't follow the flock. He didn't need a herd. He had Chumley, and that was enough. Richard wasn't only affectionate, he was smart. He learned his name. He came running when Lacey called, hooves tapping like a drumbeat on the earth. He explored every corner of the farm with curiosity. He stayed gentle but also fiercely loyal. Lacey often said people underestimate sheep, but Richard proved that animals feel in ways we often miss. He showed that intelligence isn't only in problem solving, it's in the heart. And maybe that's why it worked. Because this wasn't about instincts, it wasn't about training, it was about heart. Richard and Chumley could not have been more different. One born a fragile lamb, the other a powerful guardian dog. But somehow they spoke the same language. Love, silent, unspoken, unconditional. Sometimes the heart doesn't care what you are, it just knows who you belong with. If this story touched your heart, let it be a gentle reminder that love knows no boundaries, not of species, size, or shape. What truly matters is kindness, loyalty, and the bonds we choose to protect. If you believe in the beauty of connection, share this story with someone you care about. And don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more stories that remind us how love can change everything. At Kind Paws, each story begins with our team's heart. We choose only real and meaningful moments, always from respected sources. With thoughtful editing, music, and images, we work to make each story meaningful and alive. Thank you so much for being with us, and we look forward to the next story together.